The quiet corner was a bright afternoon on the studio lot in Los Angeles. The cast and crew of a new film had gathered in a large, sunlit rehearsal room. There were voices everywhere, actors laughing, assistants running back and forth, directors making notes. The energy was high, but one person sat quietly, almost invisible, in the far corner of the room. Ana de Armas. She wore a simple gray hoodie, her hair tied back. Her hands were folded in her lap, and she stared at the floor. No one seemed to notice her. Not because she wasn't famous, but because today she looked like she didn't want to be seen. And maybe that's exactly how she felt. Keanu Reeves entered the room slowly, his steps calm and deliberate. He wasn't wearing anything flashy. Just his usual simple black t-shirt and jeans. Yet the moment he walked in, the room changed. Conversations paused. Eyes turned. Everyone respected him not just because he was a star, but because of how he carried himself. But he didn't smile, not yet. His eyes scanned the room like he was looking for something or someone. And then he saw her. Ana, still, quiet, and a little lost. He didn't walk toward the director. He didn't greet the other actors. Instead, he raised one hand slowly in the air and said, in a steady, gentle voice, "Can we all just wait for a moment?" Everyone turned to look at him. The director looked confused. A few assistants hesitated, but no one moved. When Keanu asked for silence, people listened. He walked across the room, all the way to the corner where Ana sat. He crouched down in front of her, keeping a respectful distance. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Her eyes filled with tears. But she didn't speak. Keanu didn't push her. He just sat there, silent, kind, present. And slowly something shifted. Not just in her, but in the entire room. Just 3 days earlier, Ana had received the script. It was a dream role, something raw and real. A story about a woman who lost everything and had to find the strength to start over. But when she read it, her hands trembled, not because it was too hard, but because it was too close. She had been struggling quietly for months, not with fame, not with work, but with her own heart. After years of moving city to city, role she had started feeling empty, like she was giving all of herself to the world, but saving nothing for herself. When she arrived at the studio that morning, she had planned to be strong. She had rehearsed her lines, she had practiced her walk. But the moment she stepped into that room and heard everyone laughing and moving on like life was perfect, something inside her cracked. She had gone to the corner just to breathe, just for a minute. But that minute had stretched longer, and the voice had stayed silent until Keanu found her. "You don't have to speak right now," Keanu said gently. "But if there's anything you need, anything at all, just look at me." Ana nodded once, barely. "We can start rehearsals later," he added, standing up and turning to the others. "She needs a moment, and I think we all do." The director blinked, but Keanu, the schedule, she comes first. Keanu said, "Hey, we wait." And so, for the first time in that studio's history, time stood still for one person's silence. No one complained. No one walked out. People sat down. Phones were put away. Coffee cups were set on tables. And the room, once filled with noise, became quiet, not awkward, but respectful. The kind of quiet that holds space for someone's pain. Ana didn't know what to say. She looked up and saw every eye on her, not with judgment, but with understanding. And right there in that stillness, something inside her shifted. She stood up slowly, her voice trembling but clear. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu gave a gentle smile and stepped aside. She looked at the cast and crew. "I'm okay now, I just needed to be seen." Keanu stepped forward and said, "You were always seen, Ana. Sometimes people just forget how to look." The room remained silent, but hearts were full. What happened that day didn't make headlines. There were no photos shared on social media, but everyone in that room carried something home, something soft and powerful. That kindness can be louder than fame, that patience can be louder than pressure, and that one quiet voice, if we listen carefully, can change everything. The table read. Next morning, the rehearsal room looked the same, but something inside it had changed. It was subtle. The walls hadn't moved. The lights still buzzed quietly overhead. The coffee still sat in tall paper cups near the entrance. But the people, they moved differently now, a little slower, a little softer, like they were carrying something delicate inside them. Anna arrived early. She wore a pale green sweater this time, her hair loosely tied. She looked around the empty room, unsure if she had the strength to walk back into yesterday's silence. But the first person she saw was Keanu. He was already there, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a script in his lap and a warm mug in his hand. He looked up and gave her a small wave, the kind that didn't demand anything but offered everything. "You beat the sun," he said kindly. Anna smiled, just a little. "I couldn't sleep." "Same," he replied, motioning to the spot next to him. "Want to go over a few pages together?" "No pressure." She sat down beside him. The floor was cold, but the silence between them was not. It was peaceful. They flipped open their scripts. The scene was an intense moment where her character breaks down and reveals a hidden truth to Keanu's character. Yesterday, she hadn't been ready. Today, she still wasn't sure, but she tried. "I lost everything," Anna read, her voice shaking slightly, and no one noticed. They just ... moved on. Keanu waited a beat before responding. I noticed," he said quietly, staying in character. "I always noticed. You just stopped believing anyone could care." Anna looked at the words on the page. They felt too real. It's like they weren't fiction at all. "Can we stop for a second?" she asked. Keanu nodded immediately and set the script down. "Always." She stared straight ahead, her hands tightening. Around her knees? "Why do I feel like I'm not enough?" She whispered, "It wasn't part of the scene. It was her." Raw and real, Keanu didn't answer right away. He reached down and tore a small piece of paper from his script. On it, he wrote something in quiet scribbles and handed it to her. She opened it. It read, "You are enough, even when you're not ready." Anna blinked fast, her throat tightened. For the second time in 2 days, she didn't have the words. But this time, she didn't feel small. She felt held. As the rest of the cast trickled in, there was no rush. The director walked in and paused when he saw them sitting together on the floor. He didn't interrupt. Instead, he said, "We'll start the table read in 10 minutes. No pressure, no clock watching, just honesty." It was rare to hear those words on a film set. People found their seats around the long wooden table. Scripts were placed in front of them. Someone passed out pens and highlighters. The energy felt lighter, but also deeper, like they all understood. Now that this wasn't just a movie, it was a mirror. Anna sat between Keanu and the assistant director. She could feel her heart racing, but it wasn't fear this time. It was something closer to courage. The table read began. The first few scenes were soft. Introductions, character beats, lines that floated in and out like waves. Then came the scene, her scene. The same one she had practiced on the floor. Anna took a deep breath. Her eyes locked with Keanu's across the table. He gave her the smallest nod, and then she spoke. Her voice cracked halfway through, but she didn't stop. She didn't hide. "I lost everything," she said, her eyes wet. And no one noticed. They just ... moved on. Then silence. Keanu single quotes. The voice came next, slow and steady. "I noticed," he said again, with more weight this time. "I always noticed. You just stopped believing anyone could care." Something shifted in the room. No one spoke. No one breathed too loud. There was no need for direction or notes, because that wasn't acting. It was real. Anna finished the scene with trembling fingers and blurry eyes. The paper in her hands had creases now, like it had been through a storm, and maybe it had when the scene ended. No one clapped. It wasn't that kind of moment. Instead, Keanu reached over, gently touched her hand, and said, "Just 4 words. You didn't hide today." Anna smiled, her lips trembling. "I didn't," she whispered back. After the read-through, people came to her one by one. Not with compliments, but with stories. A young makeup artist said, "I had a day like yours, but no one waited for me." A producer said, "That scene reminded me of my sister." She's healing now. But she had to go through a long silence first. And one of the lighting crew, a quiet man in his 60s, said, "Thank you for not quitting. People like me. We watch actors and think they're made of gold. Today, I saw you were human. And that's more powerful." Anna listened to them. All. She didn't need the praise. She needed the connection. Today, she got it. Not because she was strong the whole time, but because she had the courage to break, and because someone had asked the world to wait. The story beneath the surface. 2 weeks had passed since the first table read, and the cast had grown closer than anyone expected. They didn't just know each other's characters, now they were learning about each other's hearts. And it all began with a quiet moment, a small act of kindness, and one man who asked the world to slow down. Rehearsals were steady. The scenes were getting sharper. But there was one part of the script no one could quite figure out yet. Scene 40-7. It wasn't long, only 2 pages, but it held the most weight. In it, Anna's character, Lily, was supposed to tell a story from her childhood, something small, something human, something that would make the audience understand her pain not through drama, but through silence and truth. The director had rewritten the scene twice. Nothing worked. It felt too forced, too polished. The more they tried to shape it, the more empty it felt. On a quiet afternoon, Keanu and Anna sat outside the studio on an old wooden bench. The sky was gray, and the breeze had a chill in it. But they liked that spot. No cameras, no crew. Just wind, trees, and the smell of distant rain. "I can't make this scene work," Anna said quietly, tapping her pen on the page. "I've tried. I've cried. I've even yelled once when no one was watching. But nothing about it feels ... true." Keanu sipped from his coffee and looked out at the trees. "Maybe it's not supposed to be a scene yet. Maybe it's supposed to be a memory first." Anna frowned. "What do you mean?" He turned to her. "Tell me a memory. One that hurt. One that healed. Something real. Not as an actor. Just..." As Anna, she hesitated, then laughed softly. "That's not fair. You go first." Keanu smiled. "Okay." He leaned back. His voice was soft. "I was 13. I tried to build a birdhouse with my dad. I thought it would be simple wood. Nails, a few cuts. But we kept getting it wrong. The pieces didn't fit. The roof leaned to one side. I remember getting so angry that I almost walked away. But then he said, maybe it's not the house that's wrong. Maybe we just need to understand the bird. I didn't get it then, but now I do." Anna stared at him for a long moment. "What happened to the birdhouse?" she asked. "We left it unfinished," he said. "But we sat beside it for hours, and that was enough." Anna looked down at her script. Then she spoke. "When I was 7, I used to wait for my mom outside the grocery store. She'd leave me on this little bench while she ran inside. It was safe, a small town. But one day she took longer than usual. I remember thinking she was gone, that she had forgotten me. I started crying, not loud, just to myself. When she came back, she handed me a candy bar. Smiling, she had no idea what I had felt. She paused. I never told her, not then. But after that, I never waited without fear." Keanu nodded slowly. "That's the story." Anna looked up. "What?" "The scene," he said. "Your character doesn't need to perform. She just needs to remember." The next morning, Anna walked onto set with a different energy. She didn't ask for the rewritten script. She asked for a quiet corner and a camera. "Just roll," she told the director. Everyone gathered curious. No marks, no lights, no cues. Just Anna sitting on a bench, facing slightly away from the camera, and then softly she began. "I used to wait for my mom outside the store," she said. "I was 7. The bench was small, and my legs didn't touch the ground. I liked the sound of carts rolling by, people laughing. It felt normal, until one day, it didn't." Her voice was calm, her face still. She was inside longer than usual. "I don't know why, but something in me broke. I thought she forgot me. I thought I was alone forever. I didn't scream, I didn't run, I just cried quietly. Behind the camera, the crew was silent. When she came out, she smiled and handed me candy. She had no idea. I didn't tell her. Anna blinked, but the tears stayed in her eyes. Sometimes fear becomes part of you, and no one knows it. It's not even the people you love. She looked at the lens. But you carry it, like a shadow. When she finished, the director whispered, "Cut." No one clapped. Again, it wasn't that kind of moment. Even the cameraman's hands were shaking. Keanu stepped forward. That, he said, was truth. The director didn't rewrite the scene after that. Kept Anna's words exactly as she said them. When the film came out, scene 47 was the one that made people stop. They didn't know why. They just felt it. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic. It was real. And real can move mountains. After the shoot, someone asked Anna, "How did you come up with that?" She smiled gently and said, "I didn't. I just remembered." Keanu, standing beside her, added, "Sometimes the best performance is the one that doesn't try." That week, Anna started walking a little taller. Not because the world had changed, but because she had. The moment no one expected filming had entered its most difficult phase. The scenes were heavier, now emotionally layered and full of quiet pain. The kind of pain that isn't loud, but lingers in the background like a song you can't forget. And for Anna, each day was a new test. It's not of her skill, but of her heart. One particular morning, she arrived before sunrise. The set was still dark, the sky a soft gray. She walked past the trailers, past the lighting trucks, until she reached the soundstage. She stood there alone for a few minutes, breathing in the silence. Then she saw it. On the wall near the entrance, someone had taped a photo. It was from scene 47, the one where she sat on the bench, telling the story of the little girl. Who was left waiting? Under the photo, written in small black letters, were the words, "You didn't wait in vain." Anna stared at it for a long moment. She didn't know who put it there, but she felt it was left for her. Not just as an actress, but as a human being who had once felt invisible. She touched the edge of the photo, then smiled. She was no longer the woman in the corner inside. The crew was setting up for one of the final scenes, a stormy night sequence, where Keanu's character confronts Anna's character in an abandoned house. The dialogue was sparse. The emotion was not. Anna stood by the wardrobe rack, adjusting the buttons on her coat. When the director walked over, "Anna," he said, "can I talk to you for a second?" She nodded. He led her to the edge of the set, where no one else could hear. "There's something we want to try," he said carefully. "Something unscripted?" Anna raised an eyebrow. "Unscripted." Keanu had an idea, the director continued. "But it only works if you trust him." Completely, Anna looked over. Keanu stood near the edge of the stage, his hands in his, pockets looking unusually nervous. "What kind of idea?" she asked. "He doesn't want you to know," the director replied. He said, "Real emotion comes from real surprise. If you're not comfortable, we'll do the scene the normal way." Anna paused. Then slowly, she nodded. Double quotes, "I trust him," she said. The lights dimmed. The cameras rolled. Rain machines poured water outside the house set. Thunder rumbled through hidden speakers. The crew stood frozen, barely breathing. Anna entered. The scene, soaked and shaking, her character full of fear and regret, Keanu stepped into frame. His eyes locked with hers. Then something happened. Instead of saying his lines, Keanu dropped to his knees. Not as part of the script, but as himself. Anna froze. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, old, wrinkled, but clearly treasured. He handed it to her silently. Anna opened it. It was the same paper he'd given her weeks ago. "You are enough, even when you're not ready." But now there was something new written below. "I didn't just write this for your character. I wrote it for you." Anna stared at it, her hands trembling. Her eyes filled with tears, not the kind that actors learn to fake, but the kind that come from truth. Then Keanu whispered, off script, off record, off everything. "When you sat in that corner, you reminded me of myself years ago." I didn't know how to speak either. I just knew I was tired and afraid. But no one saw me. Not like that. Until now, maybe. Maybe I saw you because I once needed someone to see me. Anna stepped closer, her voice shaking. Why are you telling me this now? He looked up at her, his eyes soft. Because this film will end. The cameras will stop. The lights will go out. But I didn't want to leave without saying it. ... You helped me heal. Ina didn't speak. She couldn't. She just dropped to her knees too. And they stayed like that. Two people. In the middle of a storm that wasn't real, feeling something that absolutely was, the director didn't yell cut. No one moved. When the rain stopped and the lights slowly faded, the room remained silent. Because something holy had just happened, and no one wanted to break it. After the scene, the cast gathered quietly outside. Anna stood alone, her arms wrapped around herself, not from cold, but from the weight of everything she had just felt. Keanu walked over. He didn't speak. He simply offered her his jacket. She took it, and that was enough. Later that night, in her trailer, she opened her notebook, the one she had kept private through the entire shoot. And for the first time, she wrote something, not for a role, not for a scene, not for anyone else, she wrote. Today, someone saw me. Not the actress, not the name. Just me. Then she closed the notebook and smiled. When silence spoke, loud as the final week of filming had arrived. People were packing up between takes. The makeup team joked softly as they brushed the actors' faces. Assistants walked a little slower now, as if they didn't want it all to end. The set, once full of tension and deadlines, now felt like a place people didn't want to leave. Anna walked in that morning with her shoulders relaxed and a calm glow in her eyes. It was not the kind of glow cameras create. It was the kind that came from something quieter, being at peace with yourself. But something unexpected happened that day. During lunch, producer called an emergency meeting. Crew members gathered near the equipment van. A rumor spread quickly there had been a delay in post-production funding. The studio was considering cutting the final scene, the last scene, the most important one, Anna's character. Lily was supposed to return to the same bench where she was left as a child. She was meant to sit down, not to speak, but to simply exist, fully. Healed, fully whole. No big dialogue, no music. Just stillness. It was Keanu's idea, a full circle ending that needed no explanation. But now, studio wanted to scrap it. They said it was too slow. Not essential. Anna stood near the wall, holding her script tightly. Keanu paced in front of the trailer, silent. The director looked torn, caught between art and orders. We can still end it strong, one assistant said. We'll cut to black after the rooftop scene. But it's not the same, Anna said quietly. They won't know what they missed, someone shrugged. But I will, she replied. Later that evening, when most of the team had gone home, Keanu found Anna alone on the empty soundstage. She was sitting on the edge of the set bench, the one built for that final scene. Her hands were folded. Her eyes were open but somewhere far away. You're still here, he said, walking over. So are you, she whispered. Keanu sat down beside her. I hate that they want to cut it, she said, that scene. It's not just the ending of the film. It's the ending of everything we built. Every quiet moment, every tear, every silence. He nodded. I know. I feel the same. Anna turned to him. So what do we do? Keanu smiled softly. We film it anyway. She blinked. But how? With one camera, one light, no crew, just us. Anna stared at him. We could get in trouble, maybe, he said. Or maybe we get the ending we all deserve. At midnight, they returned to the set. No permits, no full crew, just the cinematographer, who agreed to help without asking for credit. And one sound guy who quietly turned on a single microphone. Anna sat on the bench. No makeup. No special lighting, just her. And Keanu stood a few feet away, watching silently, letting her have her moment. The camera rolled. Anna didn't speak. She just sat. She looked ahead. Then slowly, Odd slowly. She closed her eyes not to escape, but to rest. Not from pain, but from peace. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3. Not a single word spoken, and somehow it said everything. Keanu whispered to the cameramen, "Cut." And they did. That scene was never approved. But when the film was finally edited, something happened. The studio called after viewing the rough cut. They had tears in their eyes. "Keep the ending," they said. No one explained why. They just felt it. Weeks later, during a private screening, the room was filled with actors, editors, and critics. Scene after scene played. Audience members wiped their eyes. But when the final bench scene came on, something rare happened. No one made a sound, not even a whisper. They watched as Anna sat alone. And when the screen faded to black, no one clapped immediately. Instead, the room stayed quiet. And in that quiet, something unspoken was shared by all. Some stories don't need to shout. Anna stood near the exit, watching their faces as they walked out. No one said brilliant. No. One said flawless. They just nodded slowly, deeply, because they understood. She turned to Keanu. He looked back at her with a soft, knowing smile. "You gave them something real," he said. "We gave it together," she replied. The day she didn't walk underneath sun had already set by the time the premiere began. The theater was packed, kind of packed where people stood in corners just to be part of the moment. Actors, critics, journalists, Saul, dressed in quiet. Shades of confidence, cameras flashed outside. Questions flew from the red carpet. Everyone wanted a quote. Everyone wanted a headline. But Anna stood behind the curtain, not because she was afraid. Not anymore, but because she wanted to feel the moment, not perform it. She watched through the side slit of the velvet drapes. The lights danced across the audience, and her heart, though steady, beat a little faster. Behind her, she heard a calm voice. "You ready?" Keanu asked. She turned to face him.
Yes.
His tux was simple, his hair slightly windswept.
What?
Out the most was his calm. "You look peaceful," she said. "So do you," he replied. She smiled. But there was weight behind it. Double quotes, Keanu. She said gently, "What if they don't understand what we tried to say?" He paused. Then they weren't the ones we made it for. Anna looked at him for a long time, then whispered, "Thank you for waiting." He shook his head softly. "I didn't wait for you, Anna. I just didn't want to move forward without you." And with that, he held out his arm. She took it, and together they stepped onto the stage. The film played in complete silence. Even the loudest scenes couldn't match the stillness in the room. People watched closely, not just with their eyes, but with something deeper. They felt the pain, the pauses, the quiet strength that ran through every scene. And when the final moment came, the bench, the stillness, the healing, there wasn't a dry eye left, but still, no one clapped right away. They sat with it, they breathed with it, and finally, after the screen faded to black, someone in the back stood up, then another and another. A standing ovation, not loud, not rushed, but long, steady, and filled with something rare. Respect. After the film, Anna walked out quietly to the back patio, away from the lights. The cool night breeze brushed her face. Her hands were folded in front of her the way they had been the day she sat in the corner. Except now, she didn't feel small. She felt full. Keanu joined her, holding 2 mugs of tea. "Hot chocolate," he said, handing her one. "I figured you needed something warm." She laughed softly. "You figured right." Yeah. They sat in silence for a few moments. Then Anna spoke. "I used to think that strength meant hiding your pain. Being tough, staying silent." Keanu looked at her gently, and now, she nodded slowly. "Now, I think strength means sitting in the corner when you need to, and letting someone see you there." He smiled. "And maybe letting someone sit with you." They both sipped their drinks. The night was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. A few months later, the film was nominated for awards. Anna's name was mentioned in every article. Her performance was called raw, unforgettable, a masterclass in subtle power. But the praise didn't change her. She still walked, slowly. She still paused to listen. She still helped young actors on set who didn't feel ready, and when people asked her what changed everything, what made her performance so deep, so honest, she always gave the same answer. Someone saw me. Not the actress, not the name, just me. And they waited. On the 1-year anniversary of the film's release, a quiet event was held at a small theater in New York City. No press, no big names. Just a room full of people who had once felt invisible. The screen lit up with that final scene again and on the bench. Eyes closed, breathing at the end. People didn't applaud. They just stood together. Silently, some wiped their eyes. Others just nodded. And one girl in the back whispered to her mother, "That's me. I'm the girl on the bench." Her mother squeezed her hand. "No, baby," she whispered back. "You were, but not anymore." That night, as Anna walked back to her hotel, she passed a street artist painting on a canvas. He was sketching a bench. Nothing else, just a quiet bench under a gray sky. Anna stopped and asked, "What's that for?" The man smiled gently. "For anyone who's still waiting." Anna didn't say a word. She reached into her bag, pulled out a folded paper, placed it beside his cup. He looked down and read the words, "You are enough, even when you're not ready." And as she walked away into the city lights, he called after her, "Thank you." Anna smiled but didn't turn around, because she didn't need to be seen to feel seen. Anymore, she had already been seen by someone who chose to stop, who chose to wait, who chose kindness over schedule, and that changed everything.